Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today I'm going to show you how to use the piano pedal. And of course, a grand piano like this beautiful one I'm sitting on right now has 3 pedals on it. But today I'm just going to focus mainly on the right foot pedal, the damper pedal, the sustain pedal. Really, there's just not enough material out there that really covers how to use this thing. And it's so important we get a few things right with the pedal. And if you're a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, you should head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to find out not only about our coaching programs and all the ways we help our students throughout the world, but to also gain our free resources kit, which is a great accompanying tool for these YouTube videos. So onto the pedal. The beautiful sustain pedal. How do you use it? What are the do's and the don'ts? What are the traps? What are the pitfalls? How does it work? Why is it important? I want to talk also a little bit about the left foot pedal, the una corda pedal, but before I talk about that pedal, let's talk about this sustain pedal, because it's the pedal that we're dealing with most of the time with the piano. And there is a real art to pedaling beautifully on the piano, but I just want to give you some really good tools and tips just to get you started and really getting you to understand how to use this pedal. So the first exercise we're going to do right now is we're going to give this pedal a test, because on every single acoustic piano and keyboard, there's little differences, very subtle differences between the way the pedal is set up. And I will be honest with you, on an acoustic piano, it's usually far more effective, this pedal, than even on the best digital gear out there. But even if you're on a digital keyboard, that's fine. Let's get that damper pedal switched on and let's start using it. So we're going to do a little bit of a pedal test first. You're just going to play a note like a pulse like this. And I just want you to put your foot on the pedal, but don't play the pedal. Just have your foot there, just like this, just sitting there. But it's engaged, it's ready to go, but we're not pushing it down. Now what we'll do, so I'm just going to push down a little bit, but only the smallest amount. And if you're on an acoustic piano, you will find that nothing has happened yet, or on a quality digital piano. Now you can hear a small little ring there, a small little sustain, but it's not very much. Now I'm going to add a little bit more now and push down a bit more. I'm only probably pushing down about 15% on this piano. Now I've gone down to about 20%, and I have a small sustain now. Now I've gone to 50%, and I've got much more sustain now. You can hear it's really sustaining. And now it's really sustaining. I'm now down 100%. I'm all the way down to the floor. Now, what this demonstrates, this is really important, what this demonstrates is that pedaling with the sustain pedal and the damper pedal on the right foot, it's not a binary on-off switch. And that's the danger if you own a digital keyboard. On a lot of digital keyboards, it is a binary on-off switch. And you sort of don't want to get too much into that habit, because there's layering of pedals, of pedaling. There's that less pedal. It's often known as half pedaling, where you get a sort of a thinner texture. There's a bit of sustain there, and all the way to the floor where there's much more sustain. So it's a bit like a spectrum, I guess you could say. So that's a good way just to feel aware of the instrument you're sitting on, because even on different grand pianos, I was playing on a different grand piano yesterday, and the pedal, I noticed straight away, was operating in a different way. So we have to adjust to the model of the piano, and there's just subtle differences between them all. All pianos have their own personality to them. So that just gets us familiar with the mechanism of the sustain pedal. So the next step is the universal law of pedaling. It's what I call the universal law of pedaling. And it's very, very simple. It's to do with our chords. So the general universal law of pedaling is when you change the chord, you need to refresh the pedaling, because what you don't ever want to happen is this. I'm playing a chord progression, and you can hear how terrible that sounds. It's all just melting together. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, because they sort of just forget to lift their foot, and they just sort of keep the foot down, and it's like they're hiding behind the pedal, and the sound is all just accumulating, and it doesn't sound very nice. So when you change the chord, you need to change the pedal. But that brings us to the tricky thing. When do we change the pedal? It doesn't. So this is the mistake most people make. They think that the pedal gets refreshed or changed at exactly the same time the hands leave the chord. Fingers and the feet mirror each other. But that's not what we don't. Because if I do that, if my hands and my feet mirror each other, I'll do that now. This is what it will sound like. So there's this big gap between the chords. We might as well have no pedal then, right? Makes no difference then. We can't connect these chords together if we're lifting the pedal at that time. So we actually have to lift the pedal at a different time to when the hands change the chords. So the best way to demonstrate and practice this is by using a technique I like to call the all-in technique, where we're going to go full down to the floor, 100% pedaling, and we're going to use the benefits of the pedal and go hands free. So I'm going to just play a nice C suspended chord or something. See, I'm free. The sound is all ringing out. I'm hands free. Now I'm going to change to another chord, and I don't want the sound to go silent. I want to just continue on to the next sound. So new chord, foot down. You can see what's happening. New chord, foot down. New chord, foot down. New chord, foot down. So there's no gaps between my chord like that. The sound is continuous. So if you just watch my foot here, so my hands go first, my foot goes up. This is the key, right? My foot goes up the moment I strike the chord. Just remember that. It takes a little while to get used to this mechanism because you've got to teach your body to do this. My foot goes up when I strike the chord, right? So I strike the chord, foot goes up. So when my hands go down, my foot goes up. And when I say my foot goes up, you can see my foot, it doesn't do this. It doesn't go up dramatically because that's another really important thing with pedaling. You don't want to actually use any energy on your foot. You want your foot to use as little energy as possible. It needs to just be sitting there on the edge of the pedal. You can go slightly down to the middle. I don't really have any opinion of whereabouts. I mean, you don't want to go all the way over it like that. And if you're wearing a large boot or something, that's usually not great for pedaling. I just like to wear comfortable shoes. Some people like to pedal with just their socks on and bare feet. I sometimes do that, and it's quite nice. I've got no firm opinion on things like that. Maybe some other pianists do. But yeah, around about here, this is around about where we want our foot. But we want our foot to just sit there when we're not pedaling. So if I'm not pedaling at all in the song, and I want to bring it in later, I don't really have to do much with my foot. It's just sitting there already. And when I push down the pedal, it's just a really easy motion. See, I'm not really wasting any energy on my foot. I'm not doing this. If that's how you pedal, it's never going to work. It'll just never work. You have to really economize your foot movements to the bare minimum. And given the fact on a nice piano, you only have to put the foot halfway down the pedal. You'll still get some pedaling out of the notes. I'm not wasting any energy there on the foot at all. So let's go back to this technique now. I play the chord, so my fingers go down and my foot leaves the pedal or is not engaged on the pedal. And then when my fingers go off, the pedal goes down. It's a really good practice technique. I just change the chords to whatever chords I might be playing. And I'm being completely hands-free, so I'm enjoying the benefits the pedal gives me. Right? Hands are free, the sound is still there, the music's still playing. But I just have to choose that right moment to lift, and I lift when I strike with the hands. So when the hands go down, the foot goes up. Down, up. Down, up. Making up whatever chords I want right now just to demonstrate. And so I'm getting that continuous sound on the piano. It's not being interrupted, but yet the chords are not overlapping each other and sounding terrible. Each new chord gets replaced by a new pedal cycle. Fingers down, foot up, down. the moment I strike the new chord, it's when I strike the new chord, the foot goes up. Takes a bit of practice. And maybe a nice way to practice this is just use a simple chord scale, something like this maybe. So I'm just hovering between a C major and a C suspended fourth. I'm moving the bass up with it as well. Strike, lift. Now I can lift the pedal for a longer period of time, but my fingers just have to stay on the keyboard. See, I'm putting the foot down a little bit slower now, you notice. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm sort of pedaling in time with the beat a little bit. But I have to just keep my fingers down while the foot is off the pedal, so the sound is continuous. So my fingers need to still cooperate with the foot, so to speak. Push, and then down again. So I push the chord, foot down again. Fingers, feet. Fingers, feet. And when I strike the chord, the foot goes off and on. Off, on. Off, then on. Off, then on. Off, then on. That's the sort of technique. And then I could be more elaborate, start to literally jump off the keyboard with my hands, because I can enjoy that benefit of being hands-free, which means that frees me up to do other techniques on the piano. This sort of thing. So that is a good thing to practice, just like chord, foot. That sort of, the feet is just moving at that pace in relation to the chords. So now let's use a piece of music as an example, and I'm going to use a piece of music that's on this channel, Bach C Major Prelude. This is an amazing piece for pedaling. So if you watch that tutorial, you can watch it all over again, but think of it as chords now and think of it as pedaling, because I don't really talk much about the pedaling in the piece. I talk about it a little bit, but we don't have any feet cameras or anything like that going on. So you can chord out the piece, just play it in chords. Now when I'm on the same chord, my foot stays down on the pedal, right? But when the chord changes, that's when I lift. The moment the chord changes, that's when I lift the pedal. Up, down. Change, back down again. So it's the same technique. So I'm just chording out Bach's C Major Prelude here as a way to practice my pedaling. And sometimes you'll get this wrong, right? If you're relatively newer to pedaling, you'll make mistakes and see, I've accidentally kept my foot down, and you get that sound where it all accumulates. You know, just allow yourself to make those mistakes occasionally, but just be aware of it. I think it's not getting it wrong that is the problem here. What I see as a bigger problem is when students just get used to getting their pedaling wrong all the time and stop listening to the sound they make, or they start to tolerate this sound. They start to think that's okay. You can hear it's not great, right? It just, you know, if I'm playing an E minor chord and then I'm going to an F major chord, do you really want to hear those two chords together? No, it's not nice. So it's just allowing yourself to really listen to that sound and understand why we have this universal law of pedaling. You change and refresh the pedal cycle with the chord. So now with this Bach piece, this is where it's quite exciting. We're going to play it as it's written. This is how it's written. I'm not pedaling right now. So that's without pedal. So now I'm going to apply the pedaling to it. And at the beginning of the bar, this is why this is such a good piece for pedaling. The chord changes at the beginning of the bar. So at the beginning of the bar, I don't need any pedal because the chord has changed and we want that to be fresh. But then any time after the beginning of the bar, I can apply pedal. But then when I get to the beginning of the next bar, the pedal goes off and then I apply it again. Now, if I apply it sooner, the piece will be more pedal heavy, but in an appropriate way. And if I apply it later, the piece will be less pedal heavy, if that's the effect you're looking for, a more sort of subtle effect. So let me play a more pedal heavy version of Bach C Major Prelude to demonstrate. So we start, and then the pedal goes down. Off, then it goes down. Off, then it goes down. And I can be quite consistent with this, right? And so on. And that is perfectly acceptable pedaling. There's none of that overlay or bleed of chords into each other occurring. Every new pedal cycle is a fresh start. However, the texture might start to get a little predictable, taking that more pedal heavy approach. And this is a very personal thing. Some people really like that heavy pedal sound. They like that beautiful sound of sustain. I love it as well, but it really depends on what sort of piece of music I'm playing. That will make me sort of artistically decide how pedal heavy I want the piece to be. So I could actually just half pedal, not have my foot going all the way to the floor, and experiment with a lighter sound of pedal, like this. And it makes a little difference. You can hear it's kind of subtle, it's like a thinner amount of pedal. But also another thing I can do to really create a lesser effect of the pedal and just make it more subtle is I can apply the pedal later in the bar. So the front of the bar doesn't have any pedal. It's all coming from my finger legato. And that's another thing to watch out for with pedaling. If you overuse the pedal, your fingers can get lazy. Now, if you're doing it consciously for creating a nice effect, like that sort of thing, that's perfectly fine because you're combining different textures on the piano within the same chord. But if you're unconsciously using too much pedal to substitute good finger work, that can be problematic. So let me try and apply less pedal to this by starting the pedal halfway through the bar. And let's just see how that goes. So now I apply the pedal. Then it's off, I wait, then I apply. What I was doing there, and my intuition was taking over. That's why teaching pedaling is so hard, because as a musician or pianist, I've been pedaling for years, and it really becomes a second nature, or it just becomes an intuition. But I was, in every bar, you might have heard, I was slightly modifying the way I was pedaling. I was pedaling more in some bars than in others. But the thing that was really nice is when I was pedaling less, it was almost like you didn't quite notice the pedal was there, but you would notice if it wasn't there at all, right? This is dry now without the pedal. I mean, you noticed it was definitely there, but when it's subtle, it's almost seamless. You don't quite notice it's there. It's just adding a little halo over the notes. It's just giving that lovely little bit of sustain, but it's quite subtle. So you can bring the pedal in later in the bar, and that will work particularly well in a piece like Bach C Major Prelude. It's such a great study piece for pedaling. So now that brings me to the left foot pedal, the una corda pedal, which you're not going to see on the screen as well because it's this far to the left of the keyboard, but you really don't need to. In fact, what you need to look at is the keyboard right now. Look what happens to the keyboard when I apply this pedal. Did you just notice what happened? The whole keyboard shifted to the right. And this only happens on grand pianos. On upright pianos, the mechanism's different, and if you do have an unicorda pedal on your keyboard, it's obviously purely digital. A lot of keyboards don't even have unicorda pedals. So what does it do? Some people refer to this pedal as the soft pedal, but I don't think that's an accurate way to describe it. If you think of the strings inside a piano, and you look inside the piano, a note will consist of 3 strings. You're getting the vibration of 3 strings that create a note on the piano. Until you get to the bottom of the keyboard, when you get to the very, very low bass note, you've just got 1 string, but it's a fatter string, and the mid basses, or the high basses, you've got 2 fatter strings. And there's many reasons for that. But the main point is, what this pedal does is it shifts the keyboard to the right, which means we're striking less of the string, right? You can hear it immediately. You're not getting the full open vibration of the sound. The vibrations have been reduced because we're not striking the whole note now. We're only striking a portion of the note. It definitely doesn't. So the sound is, I don't like to describe it as thinner. I think the sound is, actually, I would say it the other way around. I think the sound is thinner, not softer. It's a thinner sound. It's not as thick. And the left foot pedal is more like an on-off switch. It's an effect you can put on your playing. It's particularly useful if you're accompanying singers. And I would still use the right foot like I normally would use it to change between chords. So if I'm accompanying singers, it just means the piano's not quite as overpowering. But if I want the song to really lift up, I'll take it off and pedal with the right foot as I normally do. And so this pedal is really a lovely effect. Another great area, another great piece of music to use it in would be something like the beginning of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. I put this pedal down, and then I just normally, as I would normally use my right foot just for the chord pedaling, and I get this lovely effect. And what I love about the unicorda pedal, I call it the whisper loudly pedal. It gives you the ability to still project with your fingers rather than sort of trying to play really soft for the sake of playing really soft. You still have a little bit of breathing space with the fingers, but you're getting less vibrations from the piano. You're getting that thinner sounding texture. So for the beginning of a piece like Moonlight Sonata, it's absolutely ideal. It's a bit like the scene from a film and the lighting has been dimmed. Just get that lovely ambience, you could say, and that's what's really nice about it, rather than the fully open sound. So I hope this seminar today has helped you with your pedaling, and I just would close with 1 or 2 remarks, and that is, if you really are interested in finding out more about how we can help your piano journey, you should visit our website, Contemporary School of Piano, and you should also find out more about our courses. We've just released one of our flagship courses, The Complete Musician, and this course is designed to give you a fully structured program. It's very easy to get caught up on, YouTube algorithms and getting caught up down the YouTube rabbit hole with unstructured bits of advice here and there. And the purpose of our Complete Musician program is to structure all of these elements of our learning into 4 categories, into 4 important pillars: chords, groove and rhythm, improvisation and melody, and arrangement and integration of all of the parts. And this structured course that runs in 4 structured pillars with 8 modules, with around about 16 hours of video tuition, master classes and materials, will really help you get that structure that you're looking for in your piano playing. But in the meantime, you can also head on over to our website, Contemporary School of Piano, just to find out more about what it is we do and how we can help you. And I hope, above all, that I've helped you with your pedaling today. I'm going to finish off with a couple of arpeggios on some nice sounding chords. See you soon.